Moving on now into our next sports story. 1 in 3 teams do not have payment agreements in place heading into the FIFA Women's World Cup next week, according to FIFPRO, the global representative body for professional footballers. Last month, FIFA announced that each player at the Women's World Cup would be guaranteed at least $30,000 in a move to disburse some of the prize money to individuals rather than national federations. FIFPRO are concerned that this money might not reach all of the players, citing historical issues with payment of players. They estimate that over a dozen of the 32 teams do not have agreements in place. They are currently working with a number of the teams and unions to make sure that players are paid the fee and certain member associations are held accountable.
The biggest thing probably at the minute is making sure that the agreement, the conditions, the compensation system that we were able to put in place together with FIFA are actually being implemented. So we're working with a number of teams, a number of unions to make sure that either domestic negotiations about the fine print of how this gets translated are being done correctly, or to hold certain MAs accountable to implementing the things that are meant to be in place. That's at the moment really the big focus.
That's been an ongoing frustration sometimes with what the MAs are providing to the players in terms of preparation, and that goes from matches to scheduling to conditions in those national team assemblies as well. And I think to what Jonas alluded to earlier, ensuring that there are systems in place to make sure that the prize money allocation, the performance funding from FIFA actually reaches the players, because there's been a lot of historical issues around payment of players, whether it happens at all or whether it happens on time. So there's a lot of concern from players and our unions about those mechanisms, but FIFA have assured us that good systems are in place, but now it's making sure that they get actioned. The number of players that have told me that, we do ours camp by camp, and the leadership group, which is sometimes the captain and the 2 vice captains, have to sit with the federation in the first few days of the national team assembly and figure out the details of the agreement. How much they're going to get paid, what are the match appearance fees. The system, you would just imagine that in any other working environment. Jonas is my boss. Imagine if every Monday I had to sit down with him and negotiate what I'm getting paid that week. It's mad. This is the scenario that players find themselves in while they're also trying to train and play to perform for their country on the world stage. So again, Jonas is correct. Like, one of the major things that we wanted to change is that attitude and set a new precedent around the way in which you speak to your national team players, the dialogue with the unions, the dialogue with the player representatives, to make it more professional, because that is not a professional setup. And it's not a setup that, again, provides a platform for players to then go out and be like, well, now that I know what I'm getting paid, I can train really hard this morning and try and make the starting 11 for the opening match of the World Cup. So I would say at least a dozen of the national teams are coming into this World Cup without really a truly settled arrangement for a number of different reasons. And in our view, that's just not good enough. You've got 32 national teams, 32 captains coming from very, very different contexts and environments. And so what is maybe seen as progressive in one area could actually be illegal in another part of the world. And players are there representing that country at the highest level the sport provides. So the feedback that we've been getting from players has been as broad as those cultural contexts can be. So on the one hand, there is this expectation, particularly in women's football, particularly with the values that it portrays and what the players stand for and who they are as individuals, that FIFA need to go much further, and that this is an opportunity to really send an unbelievably inclusive and collective message. And then on the other hand, you've got players who might feel something individually, but know because of their cultural context that they're coming from, that's going to be maybe a particularly dangerous stance to take as well. So I think it's very difficult to say this is the position on behalf of all 32 captains of all 32 national teams because of that.